ESPN College Game Day and presumably Dance Marathon, which is next weekend, we don't have approval to continue after 11 p.m. I received a follow-up email saying that we had to end the event at 11 p.m. So I do have my alarm, trusty alarm, set for tonight at 10:59. But to be honest, I think we're entering a new phase. We have the ACLU Settlement Conference Friday, and that may end with an injunction against the policy. But ultimately, what happens after the court case is really up to us. Shared governance is only as good as the sharing. And IU has really demonstrated that they are not willing to share. So what are we going to do to assert our rights? We have to decide what we want, and we have to be willing to stand up for it. I really, unfortunately, don't see any alternative.
That's right.
So I'm not leaving campus anymore after this week. It's over. The First Amendment is not an illusion. It's not optional. As long as the U.S. government exists and the U.S. Constitution exists, I have a right to be here 24/7. That was the title I gave for this approved event. The First Amendment exists 24/7, and it's not just a catchy title. It's actually a real thing, and I intend to follow it up with real action. So tonight, a little bit differently, we have quite a few people who are planning to speak. I do have a list of people. So I don't have a strict order for this already, and actually I see Bryce right in front of me, and I'm inclined to turn it over to you, but we have lots of people who could talk for way too long. Bryce doesn't even need a megaphone. But yeah.
Okay, well, here's the agitator's friend, the megaphone. Before I hand it over to Bryce, I just want to point out that this is the megaphone that we used when Amrita, Maria, and I, and a number of other people led the protest about the cancellation of the Samia Halaby exhibition way back when. And also the megaphone that we used when on Friday, April 26th, we had that big rally right in front of Bryan Hall. So with that, let me pass it over to Bryce if he wants it, or Bryce, you can use your voice.
I'll just take the microphone.
All right.
It couldn't hurt. Just trigger it right there.
All right.
It could hurt.
I like to be loud, but this is even louder.
Yep.
So it's crazy to see that we're still out here trying to get the university to listen to the people who run the university. It's perverse. This idea of shared governance where the stakeholders, the students, the staff, the faculty all have a role in making this university run. And it turns out that every single one of those constituencies is against not only this speech restriction policy, but also the support for the genocide that is going on, and also the dismantling of the educational mission of this university. It's all one and the same, and we're still out here fighting for it. And I think we can't lose sight of the fact that the reason that we're in this mess to begin with is because people like yourselves, people who came before us, they watched in silence as the university was being intentionally, deliberately destroyed, dismantled. They watched as they turned an educational institution into one of profit-making and one that serves political interests. Now, I know I don't need to talk to you about the political interests and the political situation that we find ourselves in as of this past week. It's on everyone's mind. And so I want to offer a new idea of resistance. When people saw Trump win 2016, a lot of Trump's detractors, they took to the streets, they called themselves the resistance. Well, what did they end up doing? You know, the resistance ended up giving us Joe Biden, who continued austerity, increased police funding, increased support for mass murder, increased poverty around this country. And that failure gave us Trump again. The same way that resistance without any teeth, without any direction, is doomed to fail here at IU. And so when we look at all the people around the world resisting fascism, when we're looking at Palestinians resisting their genocide, we have to learn lessons. We have to learn that it takes persistence, it takes continued action, it takes targeted strategic action to get anything from these people who have clearly demonstrated that they hate us. It's not that they don't care, they actually hate us. That's why they sent an armed goon squad after us to arrest me and others. That's why they send police out here every Sunday to intimidate you all. They don't like us. They hate the idea that people take the idea of shared governance seriously. They hate that. And so the way to resist that is to continue to organize, continue to come together, continue to fight for what we know is important, fight for what we know is moral, fight for what we know is just. And I'm very glad to still see you guys out here. I'm very glad to know that the students are still fighting, that the graduate workers are still fighting, to know that these fights on these different fronts are continuing. And so, even if we take this week and feel a little down, feel a little bleak, you can take solace, and I can take solace, knowing that this isn't the end, that we're still here, we're still out here fighting, and by God, we're going to win. Thank you.
Fire Whitten. I'm going to be here after 11 saying Fire Whitten. And once again, they will prove they do not have any intellect. They will again prove. Do I need this?
If you want it, you can hold the...
I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I don't need it. They have no intellectual integrity. If they did, they would have arrested me like they said they were going to arrest me. If they did, they would admit they made a mistake when they told Heather she could have a demonstration after 11. But no, they just said, no, you just don't understand the policy. A means B. Truth is lies. They have no intellectual integrity. I'm going to tell you a story from long ago. When I was in the Student Senate, it would have been probably 1966. No, I was student body president. It was when it was 67. And Dean Schaefer was the dean of students. And one of the policies that was core to my election as student body president was that the university had a policy called Women's Hours. And Women's Hours meant every night at 11 o'clock, women had to be locked in their dorms. Women were not allowed to roam campus, while the men, who were obviously the risky ones, could roam free on campus. And this is what makes this interesting was Dean Schaefer, Bob Schaefer, the dean of students, came to the Student Senate every week. And he talked with us every week. We would have questions and answers. And this was sort of low-hanging fruit to say, well, Dean Schaefer, why is it that the women get locked in and the men don't? Why don't we lock the men in the first semester and the women in the second semester? Why don't we find a way that is fair for everybody? And he would say, well, it's because women need more protection. Or it's because we are in the place where we are responsible for these students and we're enforcing what the parents say. Or we were doing this. And finally, because he had intellectual integrity, one day he stood up and said, or admitted, the only reason they had that policy was to protect women's virginity. And that was the kind of intellectual and honesty we couldn't possibly get. Now, I pointed out that that might not be their job. that it might be the women who should decide about their virginity, not the dean of students. But I appreciated that little bit of of intellectual integrity and honesty in discussion, and showing up and talking with the students about the things we were concerned with. And I didn't ever think I'd long for the 60s, because they were terrible times. But things like that make me long for an administrator like Bob Schaefer. Thank you. Thank you.
Can everyone hear me if I just talk at my usual loud voice self? Okay, great. So Russ had asked me to talk today about some of the things that are happening specifically on campus that connect to 202 and diversity issues, what I'm just going to call like anti-blackness and white supremacy issues. But in particular, I wanted to bring your attention to what's happening with CRESS. I don't know how many of you know about CRESS on our campus, but it's the Center for Research on Race and Ethnicity in Society. It just celebrated its 10th anniversary last year. It was and continues to be a really amazing research center for the study of race and ethnicity in society. It began just as a college center for college faculty and students examining race in the United States. And then it actually became a campus-wide center under the auspices of the provost. And we drew in students, undergraduate and graduate students, and faculty from across the campus, from the School of Public Health to business, law school. I mean, it's a really, really amazing space. This is a center that brings in fantastic speakers every single year from all over the country to speak about their research. It's a center that provides research and travel funds for undergraduate and graduate students to be able to do cutting-edge research, to work with faculty on projects. It also provides funding for faculty to be able to go and do their research. I have, been blessed to be able to be funded by CRESS. That was part of the money that helped me do the research on my second book that came out last year. This is, okay. But it's an amazing space. There's weekly coffee, meetings where students can just drop in to find community with one another, to share space with one another, to encourage each other, talk to each other. So the intellectual vibrancy is absolutely there. Being able to speak about your work, right? Grad students get a chance to present their work, faculty get a chance to present their work, all of these amazing things, but it's about the building of community, because on a campus like ours, which is such a heavily predominantly white institution, we're still, after me being here for 20 years, we've never moved the needle past 4% student body population being African American, right? This was a space, one of the few spaces where people could come together to not only have intellectual camaraderie, but build community across lines of staff, student, faculty. Last spring, the directors of the center continually kept emailing and trying to have meetings with the provost to ask about the next year's funding, because fiscal year end was coming up, and they kept getting pushed off and pushed off and pushed off. And at the same time, we're not getting paid, by the way. These are two women of color who were doing labor for the university and who were not getting paid as they were supposed to. And then after the 11th hour, when it was too late to do anything about it, supposedly, the provost essentially said to the directors of this amazing institute, sorry, we're not going to be funding you anymore.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
We're not going to be funding you anymore.
The fuck?
Yeah. This is also an institution, by the way, this research center has an amazing postdoc program. It runs a global competition every year. Hundreds and hundreds of top scholars who are finishing up their PhDs from across disciplines apply to this postdoc program. And every year, 2 different students are chosen who have just gotten their PhDs to come here for 2 years as postdoctoral scholars. They're affiliated with departments, right? They're mentored by faculty. They're able to work on their research projects. And then some of them have been able to acquire tenured track jobs here at IU to continue contributing to our community. Others have been able to use that postdoc as a springboard to get amazing postdoctoral tenure track jobs at other institutions. So over 11 years, CRES has placed people in jobs by bringing them in through this postdoc program. They place them here and around the country. And so all of this is in danger because the provost decided that budgetary cutbacks, there's always money for what the administration wants there to be money for, like a chancellor position that we don't need. Right. But there is not money for raising graduate student salaries, there is not money for hiring faculty, and now there's not money for CRES. The Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences stepped up and said, we will take CRES back into the college and support CRES, because that's where CRES first started. But the problem is the college is in such severe budgetary crises because of central campus administration nonsense. They can't support CRES at the full amount that they don't have the money to be able to support CRES at the level that CRES was being supported at when it was a provost-funded campus-wide center. So these 2 directors, who are now finally starting to get paid again, said, well, we're going to have to let our student academic appointee workers go. We're going to have to cut back our staff. We're going to have to cut our postdocs from 2 to 1. So they're cutting and they're cutting and they're cutting until there's nothing left to cut because there was no fat on the bone to begin with. And so I'm going to ask you to think really long and hard about how this connects to the 202 policies that we've seen passed, and how it connects to the threat that has happened across the country at other universities where people wake up one morning and find out that their DEI offices have been shut down, people have either been fired or they've been redistributed to other offices across campus. We know at Kentucky they did this before the law was even passed. Oklahoma, Missouri, Texas, it has happened at state after state after state. And so I'm begging you, do not let this happen here. If you care about scholarship, like what CRES has been supporting for 11 years, if you care truly about equity, if you care about battling all of the things that are happening at the state level which are being implemented here in very nefarious ways, death by 1,000 paper cuts still leaves you dead. And that is what is happening. They're cutting here and cutting here and cutting here, and they're keeping us so overwhelmed because of the number of cuts that we don't know where to look next and what to do next. But as Bryce so eloquently said, we must continue to be strategic. We have to organize, we have to build our communities of care, but we can't just talk. There must be action, and CRES is a focal point that requires action. Otherwise, this center will cease to exist. Thank you. Thank you.
More information as to how to get involved?
Absolutely.
All right, so keep your ear to the ground? Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yes, and Russ can actually probably give you the details, but we are putting together several items, but one of which will be a press conference to get the word out to an even larger constituency outside of not outside of Bloomington and outside of Indiana, because this is a major, major issue.
Who is this?
Are we at 11?
It's 11.
I'm going to go join my friends on the sidewalk in case I get written up again.
Do I need this?
No, you're good. You're good.
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Let Gaza live!
Let Gaza live!
Let Lebanon live!
Let Lebanon live!
Those of you who've been here in previous weeks or were at the courthouse have heard me make 3 points. I'm not going to do more than point at them. This is a marathon, not a sprint or a middle distance event.
I believe we are going to win, but not tomorrow, not next week. I believe it is a marathon. I believe you cannot win here at Indiana if you do not organize locally and nationally, because if this kind of repression of academic freedom and speech rights and support for Palestine is allowed at Harvard and Penn and Swarthmore and all the other colleges where it's happening, you're not going to be able to stop it here at Indiana. The outside context matters. And the third point is, to faculty, you do not have the power to do what is necessary to win if you are not in solidarity with your graduate students and your staff, all of the constituents. And this, I was going to build on something Bryce said. You cannot aim to go back to what was here before. What was here before for decades was academic freedom based on not teeth, but based on restraint on the part of administrators and trustees. That era is clearly over. Do not think you can regain from Pam Whitten and the trustees here restraint that will restore your academic freedom. You need to restore academic freedom in a new way, and that new way has to have teeth, and that involves wall-to-wall organizing of the university, wall-to-wall unionization of the university, in solidarity with your grad students, in solidarity with your staff. Faculty, many of you may have been comfortable before Pam Whitten came. But the previous administration, the previous president, the previous provost were union busters. They may have been people you were comfortable and enjoyed having dinner with in some case, unlike Pam. But do not mistake the fact that you could have dinner with them comfortably for thinking that they were fighting the good fight. They were union busters. They worked to bust the graduate student union. Do not think that it would be adequate to go back to get rid of Pam and just go back to what you had. You cannot retrieve what you had. You're going to need to rebuild the university on a firmer foundation, and I do not see any firm foundation other than unionization, wall-to-wall unionization across the university. And to think you can retrieve what once was and what may have worked pretty well, particularly for faculty, for several decades, is nostalgia and sentimentality at a moment, particularly after Trump's election, when we need to be revolutionary. You want to regain academic freedom, you're going to have to shut it down. And you as faculty cannot shut it down on your own. You as faculty cannot shut it down without your graduate students. So stand in solidarity with your graduate students on December 6th. Walk out with them on December 6th.
Yeah. If we don't get it,
shut it down.
If we don't get it,
shut it down.
If the people don't get it,
shut it down. A small, but I think you, along with December 6th, it's very hard to read in this light, along, particularly with my distant classes. I want to announce another event which I think everybody here should value. Monday, November 25th at noon, there will be a panel on expressive activity policy. I use expressive activity policy in the law school, and Valerie Winston, the trustee, will be on the panel. So show up there and make sure that Valerie Winston hears your voices.
Which date?
It is Monday, November 25th at noon.
Where?
It's the first day of the
Mauer Law School. I assume the moot courtroom.
Is it the moot courtroom? I assume it's the moot courtroom.
Moot courtroom and Mauer here.
Can we get the bullhorn back here?
Yep.
Marco?
Or I can try without. Is that okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
That is my teaching voice.
Awesome.
All right. If you can hear me here, I'm talking from the United States of America, where we don't have a curfew around here, where freedom of speech is allegedly 24/7. I am Marco. I've been very involved and very passionate about the IFS program, Intensive Freshman Seminar, Intensive First Year Seminar, inviting incoming students and helping especially students from minority backgrounds, first generation students, helping them get acquainted to the complexity of campus life. They used to take a real substantive 3-credit class in just a couple of weeks. They made contact with other students, they bonded together with other students, they got to know the strange entity, the professor, and they weren't so threatened by the weird entity at the end of the class, of the seminar. They knew they were ready. Amrita, you told us that diversity has not improved in the last 20 years. However, it did improve from the 1980s until 20 years ago. And it improved both presence and retention based on a system of initiatives. IFS was central to that.
Yes.
It was always designed to improve retention of African American and minority background students, and it was successful in that. And again, lo and behold, what are the odds? It is one of the things that has been put on the chopping block by Pam Whitten and her goons. IFS has been discontinued unilaterally with nothing ready to replace it. I was at an abysmal meeting with Basti Torres in which she announced unilaterally that since IFS cannot serve everybody, she's going to shut it down, which meant zero. It's from not everybody, no one is being served by that. We have been told that there is a pilot program meant to replace it. However, they haven't involved anybody from IFS. If you want to help students come to you and get acquainted, you had dozens of faculty who taught IFS and could be involved into helping that. The fact that we have not been asked our opinion, we have been told unilaterally that was going to be shut down. Basti Torres created her own task force in the dark of people I believe that maybe she can control, maybe that's the idea. But the fact is this, there is nothing in place to help first generation students and students of color get acquainted to campus life. I can predict, as it happened before, the retention rates will fall. And the heartbreaking thing is I believe that is exactly what they're looking for. That is exactly what they want, and I think it's disgusting in itself, and it's even more disgusting as part of this larger plan to destroy and dismantle IU. Thank you all for listening to me.
I'm not on the list, but I just feel like what you were saying. Can you hear me? Yeah, I can speak loud. Okay. So while this is happening, we also know that IU is purchasing. Okay. All right. I'm pulling the trigger. Okay. So at the same time that IFS is being phased out because it's too expensive and not enough people are being served by it. Those are the logical explanations we were served. I asked the provost, okay, so what's happening with that $40 million building that you are expanding to buy in DuPont Circle for approximately 40 people? It has 40 dorm rooms. So, out of 48,000 people, that is like what percentage? I'm not a math, but I'm pretty sure that doesn't serve everybody. And the answer that he gave, I looked at the transcript again of the answer, and it was like, yeah, these are important capital investments we're making for a campus in D.C. Last time I checked, Indiana is not in D.C., and really what I think is happening, to be completely honest, is I think the Department of Defense would much prefer to meet with the people that they want to meet with from IU in DuPont Circle. There's not going to be any, Free Palestine protest there. because our students are not there, and the 40 people who are participating are probably afraid to say anything about anything that's happening downstairs with the administration. So this is, in full view of us, and shameless, because he didn't even try to articulate any argument about the feasibility, the financial viability, and what the academic purpose of this thing is. None of that happened. So it's a shameless diversion of our funds from the academic purpose that we're here for to, good old for-profit other things.
Great feathers here. Who's going to speak? Eli?
Oh, yeah.
Hi.
We'll see if I need this.
Okay.
Oh, we will. All right, we're gonna violate this policy by like 6 inches by my estimation. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this really short, but essentially, I don't know. You'll all have those weeks where it just feels like nothing quite goes right, you know? And I think like a lot of the things that we're like dealing with both at IU and nationally, right, sort of demands that we like organize, right? Like the thing I've seen all over the internet is like, oh, organize, right? But I think like that gets thrown around and it's a little abstract. So like, what does it mean to actually organize here at IU, right? And so I was debating, do I want to give something like try to inspire people like everyone, like all the previous speeches have? And like, nah, everyone gets it. I think we're all on the same page, right? So we need a concrete task, right? What we need to do in order to organize is you need to go back to your departments, right? And you need to get 5 to 10 people that you can talk to consistently, right? That you understand and can analyze what's happening at this university. So it's not just the same 60 to 100 people who show up to these vigils, right? Because we get it, right? We're all on the same page here, but we need to spread that message, right? So concretely, this is what we need to do to move forward, right? This lays the groundwork for protecting IFS, protecting CRES, organizing graduate students, organizing faculty, organizing staff, right? This is what the path forward will look like, right? And part of that needs to be met with these large-scale demonstrations at the same time, right? Like, this is good. This shows that we are here for each other. But we also need to be able to organize at a mass scale to show people who may not be as confident as we are to stand 6 inches over a line, right? That everyone has got each other's backs. We need to understand what solidarity feels like, right? And you don't understand that unless you can see people out consistently and you can like have a community to fall back on. That's really it, right? I was trying to think about like what Green Feathers wants to update, like what do we have on the docket? And frankly, it's this small scale organizing that you can pivot into something larger, right? That includes like the December 6th rally, right? That's the easy first step. That's pretty much it, right? Like it's, again, not inspiring, but it's concrete. It's homework.
It is inspiring. It is.
I'm in the instructor record mode, man. This is homework. We have assignments. We've got tasks. We gotta get it's busy. Let's go. We got stuff to do. Well, I need to. Where am I passing?
I would like to say.
Sarah and brother.
I just need to coordinate with Sarah.
Yeah, sorry, we have like one more group that's gonna, I know they're here.
Where?
Oh yeah, Sarah and brother William.
Well, I'm right here.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just say a little something.
Sorry, we're a little more organized this one.
Hello, everybody. My name's William Morris. I'm a lawyer here, and I come out here, and I'm not a professor, and I'm not the head of a program, and I'm not doing a lot of the kind of things that a lot of you are doing. But I've been out here probably 3/4 of the times we've been out here, and I am just moved, like my young brother here just said, to be a part of this. To be with Alex, to be with Ben, to be with my wife Sarah, to be with Amrita, to be with Bryce, to be in this community. However small it may be right now or whatever it is, it's consistent. And I'm just very, very happy to be a part of it. And I think this brother right over here with this homework that he's given us to talk to 5 people this week, somebody new. And you know, I don't talk to a lot of people on the campus. And I think there's a lot of people off the campus that don't understand what's going on here, that don't always get the things that we're talking about here, that pick up about the programs about CRESS or about IFC or about these different programs. But the freedom of speech idea is important to everyone, and I think all of us need to get on board with that. I am very happy to be on board with that. As a lawyer, I'm not a First Amendment lawyer, but as I'm getting involved with this and understanding the EAP and all of the things, and Ben's talking about, and listening to them negotiate what's going to go on in federal court, and realize the brains and the energy and the intellect and the depth. This is a real thing going on right here, and I hope that we will continue to come back, whether it's here, whether it's somewhere else, whether it's another place, a park, wherever it is. I hope we will come back and come back and come back and come back, because that's the beauty of all that I've seen here and being a part of it. So thank you for being here every Sunday.
Anybody?
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Let me finish up here, okay?
I'd like to say something.
Sorry, Russ.
Mark, if you want to speak, it needs to be about 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'd like to say something. Probably.
Okay, no, I need you to tell me that you'll be really brief.
Well, either you let me speak or you won't.
Please be brief.
I was here when we shut down this building here over the Vietnam War. We put people at the doors, and we had 12,000 people here. But it was after Nixon had decided to draft students, male students. Before that, this university wasn't really that active. I applaud what everyone is doing here, and I'm glad to see everybody out, but there's a previous history here that's very interesting. Our protest here was run out by the police. It started at that end, and everybody fled to the meadow. And at the end of that was Greg Hess. And he said, "We'll take the fucking streets later." And at that, the police waded in and arrested about a dozen people, including him. It ended up in front of the Supreme Court of the United States in the Hess fuck case, because he said, "We'll take the fucking streets later." And we convicted of obscenity here in Bloomington, and went up the chain of command, went up the courts until it got to the Supreme Court. And so we have the Hess fuck case. And Guy here was part of that. Well, part of it, and Coleman especially. Yeah, but anyway, we were here for that. We had some of these activities before, so there may be something to learn from some of us who went through all that bullshit back then. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Here's the hand grenade. Hope I didn't hurt anybody's feelings.
Russ, good luck with that. Yeah, that's great. You were great. What's that? You were great.
And then Alex will take it back to take home. I want to thank everybody so much for being willing to give us status updates here. And I'm going to have to, there it is. We started this vigil 12 weeks ago as a symbol of mourning for free speech at Indiana University, but that has by no means been the only reason for our mourning. We've also witnessed the lack of acceptance of even hearing talk about Palestine and Gaza, the refusal to so much as acknowledge the 93% vote of no confidence, the arrogance of a handful of administrators who took it upon themselves in a furtive midnight session to dismantle a policy of free expression that had served the campus well for 55 years, followed by arrests, snipers, and illogical and unenforceable replacement policy fences, sanctions, reprimands, the slow but inexorable dismantling of institutions supporting minoritized faculty and students, and a bizarre retrenchment policy that supports $175,000 bonuses and multi-million-dollar apartments for 40 individuals, but issues what seems like daily draconian cuts for effective programs supporting the students and faculty of IU. So, when our friends on the other side of the gate, who don't appear to be here tonight, failed to show up last week after ESPN Game Day debacle and told us we could speak freely so long as it wasn't amplified, we were ready to celebrate. Of course, that feeling of celebration turned into complete confusion in the face of a series of non-denial denials and backpedaling by the administration so hard we were afraid they'd sprained their ankle. Quite a number of reporters have asked us this week if we'd still consider it a victory if the administration rescinded that approval, that enforcement. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
There are actually two levels of victory here. First, the administration has shown us once again that, as we all knew from the moment UA-10 was first introduced, it is impossible to enforce without tying oneself in constitutional knots. That is exactly what their words and their actions demonstrated this week. But at a deeper level, our presence here week after week for 3 months now is in itself a massive victory. Unfortunately, it could be that the Whitten administration is simply the advance guard for the kind of authoritarian repression we'll soon see across our state and nation. So our continued presence here is critical. We are the bulwark, the guardrails, the last line of protection for freedom of speech and support of the principles and values that define our university. With your presence here and your peaceable eloquence week after week, you have made Protect IU into much more than just a phrase. With the courage and perseverance everyone attending this event has shown, it is abundantly clear that we are truly the ones who are protecting IU. So we stand here in a total state of confusion, wondering, what are they saying? I don't think they know. The court may, by issuing an injunction, bring an end this Friday to UA-10 enforcement. But the one thing I do know, as Heather said, is that it isn't up to the Board of Trustees, the President, the Provost or Vice Provost, or their supporters to tell us when to quit. It is solely up to us.
Yeah.
All right. So, let's take a vote on a few questions here. Please answer with a yes or a no in your strong, non-amplified voice. Are you ready to stop advocating for Palestine and against genocide?
No!
Are you ready to accept that 90% plus votes of no confidence are utterly meaningless?
No!
Are you ready to leave the literal and symbolic fences erected around Dunn Meadow and fall in line with the constitutionally dubious expressive activity policy?
No!
Are you ready to accept whatever this administration does to implement the anti-civil rights agenda of the Republican supermajority through SEA 202?
No!
Are you ready to watch while a host of programs, especially DEI programs, are slashed and replaced with $40 million apartments and presidential bonuses?
No!
Are you ready to stop our vigil?
Yes!
Ooh, wrong question, Russ.
I think Ben Roberts has something to say.
This vigil, hey you guys, let me actually propose that we move on to something in the spirit of what Eli said, of bringing in 5 more people and looking for something higher impact. So I know AK has proposed something with the buffer zone. I think we could meet in the libraries for study-ins, but I think we got to shake it up. So that is my only proposal here. Sorry, Russ, for interrupting, but you were building it up, and I knew where you were taking it. I'm fine with the vote, but I really think we gotta. They're not going to listen to us. We know that. We look at the you know how many people they killed in Jabalia, in Bet Hanun, in Bet Lahia. You know how many people are now facing the phase classification for famine? They say famine has started. And you pick up the New York Times, nothing. We are killing an entire people.
Shame.
Shame.
Nothing from the New York Times, nothing from Biden, nothing from Pamela Whitten. We got to shut it down, folks. They're not listening. We got to step it up. We got to step it up. Eli told us how. We all recognize why, and we cannot. We got to make sure look, we would negotiate in good faith if they had good faith. But this isn't about a negotiation until they are able to demonstrate to us that they mean business, and business means shutting down a genocide. And if they're not going to come up and step up for that, we are going to step up, and that's where we're going to take the next step. Next step, you got to have courage. You got to, as Eli said, talk to your colleagues. You got to talk to your friends. You got to talk across generations and institutions and communities. But we will be there, folks. Next step, why don't we meet in the library? That's my suggestion. Or within 25 feet of Bryan Hall. Yeah. Whatever it is, let's step it up, and we'll take it to the next level. Sorry, Russ, for interrupting you, but I just think we got to move on.
I'm 79 years old, and it's really hard for me to be out past my bedtime. And this is not a photogenic situation. That nobody can come here with the cameras and see what's happening. I think we need, who wants to continue protesting?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I am not in favor of able to continue protesting at 10:30 or 11 o'clock on Sunday nights. And I think there are others who may be in that position, and this is not growing. I think we need to find something that we can grow, and I think that has to take place in the daytime so we can have photogenic posters that say "Fire Whitten" that people can read. Thank you.
So, in the interest of next steps, things that are immediate that you can do to advance all of our movements, the IU Divestment Coalition this Thursday at 4:30, right here at Sample Gates, is having a rally where we are dropping our petition, which so far has garnered over 2,300 signatures, demanding that Raul Srivastava, Pamela Whitten, and Carrie Doherty resign, demanding that IU disclose all of their investments, partnerships, and affiliations, and demanding that IU divest from all of those affiliations that support the military-industrial complex, and especially the genocide in Palestine, and a series of measures that will make this place genuinely safe for people, that will ensure that this will continue to be a place of learning and not of war. Books, not bombs. So meet here. We will be delivering our petition, and so they won't have an excuse when they decide to send in an army against us to say, oh, we don't know what they wanted. They don't have an excuse. And with that petition drop will come a deadline. A deadline after which we shut it down.
So Thursday, 4:30.
Thursday, 4:30, Sample Gates. Be there, right here.
Thursday, 4:30.
4:30 in the morning, bro?
Just for you, Alex. You can show up at 4:30 in the morning. Thursday, 4:30.
Thursday, 4:30, Sample Gates.
It's already 11:30, so let's wrap it up for tonight. I deeply appreciate every single one of you for being here for so many vigils. It's been incredible. Let's keep it going. There's so much more work to do.